My wife got pregnant with my first love's child without telling me. At my birthday party, my wife's scheming first love overturned the cake again. My wife slapped him in public. I thought my wife had finally changed her mind. When I went to the bathroom, I accidentally saw my wife comforting him with loving eyes at the corner of the stairs, saying, "Okay, the children are yours." He and I were just playing around. After my wife came back, she told me the good news of her pregnancy and threatened to fire my first love and hold another birthday party for me. What she didn't know was that there would be no next time. She got pregnant with my first love's child without telling me, and I went through the divorce procedures without telling her. After my wife Ellie made her affectionate promise, the box fell into silence. I ignored everyone's inquiring eyes and didn't say anything for a long time. Ellie's first love, Nathan, couldn't help it anymore. He said, "That's enough. Ellie hit me for you. What else do you want? You're going to be a father too. Don't be so petty." I glanced at him speechlessly. He was the one who made trouble, I just didn't say anything. How could I be petty? What's more, my wife is mine, but the child may not be. At this time, the phone in my pocket vibrated and the screen lit up. I took it out and saw that it was a message from a friend. "Brian, the ingredients of the pills you sent me have been tested, and they are contraceptives." I smiled bitterly and turned off the screen. It turned out that the vitamin tablets that Ellie must take every day are contraceptives. No wonder we have been married for 7 years and have no children. But we have obviously gone for checkups and both of us are in good health. I remember that when I came out of the hospital after the checkup, Ellie was still comforting me, saying, "Husband, don't worry. Even if I hurt my body to do test tubes, I will leave a descendant for your Lynn family." I was very moved at the time and handed over my bank card and salary card to show my feelings. But I never thought that Ellie had gone to such lengths just to get pregnant with Nathan's child in a legitimate way. I should have been angry, but now I am only full of fatigue. I didn't want to stay any longer and turned around to leave, but Nathan suddenly grabbed me and scolded me in dissatisfaction. "Brian, didn't I just break a cake of yours? Can't I compensate you? This birthday party was arranged by Ellie according to your preferences. Do you have to leave in pity and let her down?" I looked at the birthday party again. It was indeed arranged according to my preferences, but none of the guests were my friends, they were all mutual friends of Ellie and Nathan. These people not only knew about their spectacular past but also served as bodyguards for their love. At this moment, everyone looked at me with sarcasm and amusement. I didn't want such a birthday party. I shook off his hand. Ellie suddenly stood in the middle. Ellie, who had always been partial to Nathan, actually scolded him for the first time. "It's all your fault. Why are you going crazy for no reason?" After that, Ellie considerately tidied my clothes and said softly, "If you don't feel well, we'll go home now." It was a rare time that Ellie was on my side, but I couldn't be happy. She was the CEO of a listed company, and she always liked to bring business into her life. Although I was a little distressed that she was unkind, she was like that to everyone, so I didn't take it to heart. Until 3 years ago, on my birthday, Ellie held a birthday party for me as usual. But her first love, Nathan, suddenly came back. He showed up at the party, knocked over the cake, and pushed down a wall of champagne. I thought he was a lunatic and was about to chase him away when I saw Ellie, who was always calm and indifferent, panic. It was the first time that she left me and the guests at a birthday party and chased after Nathan, who was leaving, without caring about her image. At that moment, I understood that Ellie would also lose her composure, but her heart had never been moved by me. The next year, Nathan used the same trick again. I chased him out worriedly but saw with my own eyes that they were hugging each other under the tree. This year, the story took a different direction. For the first time between the two of them, she chose me, but I knew very well that this was just her compensation to me after she became pregnant with Nathan's child. Giving a slap in the face and then a sweet date was her usual method. Seeing me in a daze, Ellie tightened her grip on my arm. I shook my head and said, "I'm going back." Ellie understood my intention to go home and pulled me, saying, "Okay, let's go home now." Nathan called her jealously. He raised his eyebrows and looked at me again. Ellie is pregnant, and it is not convenient for her to drive. You should take a taxi back by yourself. Hearing this, Ellie gave him a reproachful look, then turned around and explained to me gently that there was something else going on at the company and she had to be busy for a while. You should go back and have a good rest. I will hold a birthday party for you this Saturday. I nodded perfunctorily, opened the door of the box, and took a deep breath of fresh air. I knew that the company did not have anything to deal with. Ellie just went to compensate Nathan. After all, she beat him in front of so many people this time, so she had to spend a lot of money to make up for it. I had just taken out my mobile phone to take a taxi when I received a message, Mr. Brian, your divorce certificate has been processed. Someone will deliver it to your door on Saturday. Please fill in the address and pay attention to it. At the same time, Ellie sent the address of the box for the birthday party on Saturday. I copied it and filled in the address. Ellie will definitely be very happy to receive this gift. After finishing everything, I returned home and called my tutor. Teacher, I applied to go to the experimental group on the uninhabited island. The tutor was silent for a while and advised, have you thought it through? Once you enter the island, you can't contact the outside world for at least 10 years. Aren't you afraid that Ellie will be anxious and look for you all over the world? Once I leave, Ellie will definitely go crazy. Last time, she gave the collectible ancient painting she bought for me to Nathan and replaced it with a fake one. I gave up on her and prepared to go abroad and leave her completely. But after my whereabouts were accidentally leaked, in order to keep me, she falsely accused me of carrying secret information and trying to escape abroad. As a result, I was detained and banned from leaving the country, and I almost lost my job. Later, she was even more afraid that I would run away, so she hid my passport and ID card. She even sent someone to follow me and keep an eye on my every move. As soon as I left the city, she would get the news as soon as possible. In fact, I am also very confused. Isn't the person she loves Nathan? I let go and let them be together. Why does she still pester me? I shook my head and stopped thinking about it. I told my supervisor that we are divorced and she has no right to interfere in my affairs. The supervisor didn't say anything more but just informed me that the last time I leave is this Saturday. The location is at the institute, and I will leave directly by helicopter. No documents are required. After I hung up the phone, I put my phone down. What a coincidence, it's Saturday again. I still remember that the first time I met Ellie was on a Saturday. At that time, she was burdened with huge debts and her company was about to go bankrupt. She came to her mentor in the heavy rain to promote her company's technology, hoping to cooperate with the institute to overcome this crisis. The strong wind and rain soaked her clothes, and she couldn't even open her eyes because of the rain, but she wrapped the plan in her coat, blocked the front of the car stubbornly, and refused to let go. I stopped the car, handed her an umbrella, and treated her to a bowl of hot wontons on the roadside. After getting to know her, her tenacious character attracted me. I helped her gain the trust of her mentor, and for this she won a big order and the company was reborn. Later, we were together naturally. Her company was thriving and I was studying academics every day. We were a couple that everyone envied, but how did we end up like this, where we hate each other? I shook my head and walked into the study, preparing to collect the relevant information, but I saw the plan that had once expressed our love, left in a corner and gathering dust. On the desk was the poetry collection that Ellie loved most when she was young. The window was open, and the breeze blew the papers, revealing the page with Nathan's name on it. Below the name was beautiful handwriting, written by Ellie, I will only love you in this life. It turned out that no matter how twisted she was, she could express her love generously. I remembered that at our wedding, she was urged many times by the MC, and she couldn't even say the 3 words, I love you. In the end, she left in shame. I thought she was quite cute at that time and smiled, telling her that it was okay to write down what she couldn't say. She shyly refused again, but just held my hand and walked back into the auditorium. Looking back at those careless little things in the past, I suddenly realized that it was not that she couldn't say it, but because she had someone she truly loved in her heart. I put my thoughts aside, packed my things, and was about to send the information to my tutor when a message from Nathan popped up on my phone. It was a photo of Ellie sleeping in his arms. Then, Nathan sent a provocative message, "Don't wait, your wife is with me and won't be going home these few days." After a while, Ellie called me and said, "Husband, I'm sorry I can't go home today. I have to go on a business trip for a few days. Don't worry, I will be back this Saturday to hold a birthday party for you. I have specially prepared a valuable gift for you, which is absolutely genuine." She emphasized playfully that since she bought me a fake last time, which almost made me leave her, she no longer dared to fool me with gifts related to me. Every time she brought me the certificate and invoice, but I didn't care at all. I responded coldly, "Okay, I gave you a gift too." Ellie pretended to be surprised and laughed with a pinched throat, "Really? I really hope Saturday will come earlier. I really want to see what your gift is now. I hope she will really like it." I hung up the phone with a sneer and silently burned all the items that once witnessed our love, along with the hypocritical love between us. During the business trip, Ellie kept reporting her whereabouts to me and always asked to video chat with me, as if she was absolutely loyal to me. But while she was proving her innocence, at the same time, Nathan also sent me a private message to provoke me, "You don't really believe that she will fire me, right? It's just a joke. The person accompanying her on the business trip this time is me. Don't worry, I will take good care of your wife." As he said that, he showed me the screenshot of the air tickets they booked. I laughed dumbly. All this was within my expectations. Nathan is confused and often makes mistakes, but Ellie always finds various reasons to keep him. How could she be willing to fire him just because he knocked over a cake this time? I ignored him and silently prepared to leave. But Nathan was relentless and sent me their travel video, saying that the business trip was just a lie. We had a lot of fun. In the video, Ellie smiled brightly. She also blocked me and posted a circle of friends. Finally, I fulfilled my dream of traveling around the world with my first love. But in the past, I proposed to take her out to play countless times, and she refused on the grounds of work. Now it seems that whether you are busy or not depends on how important the matter is. When you are with me, work is always the most important thing. I didn't reply. I am leaving. I still have work to hand over to the next colleague. These past few days, I've been leaving early and returning late, running back and forth between home and the institute. Even the bodyguards who were following me thought there was nothing wrong with me and were more lax than usual. On Saturday morning, as usual, I received a provocative message from Nathan. This time he sent me a DNA test form. He had done a paternity test in advance to prove that the child in Ellie's belly was his, and he showed it off in front of me. Have you ever wondered why she only got pregnant recently after agreeing to do the IVF test for so long? That's because she said she was afraid of the pain after doing it once. We conceived naturally, and this time when I saw this message, I no longer had any emotional fluctuations in my heart. Ellie really betrayed me. This time, her child was not conceived through a test tube, but so what? Today is the day I leave. I put my phone on the table, letting Nathan's provocative messages roll in, and went to work normally as usual. "Mr. Brian, it's autumn, and your wife reminds you to put on more clothes." The nanny greeted me and handed me the clothes that Ellie had prepared in advance. I took it with a smile, got in the car, and rushed to the institute. Under the guidance of my tutor, I boarded the helicopter. Watching the familiar city getting smaller in my eyes, I felt more and more cheerful. I left, and from then on, Ellie could never find me again. On the other side, when Ellie just got off the plane, she suddenly felt a palpitation. She called the bodyguard anxiously to ask about my whereabouts. MSS. Ellie, Mr. Brian has already gone to work at the research institute. Ellie was relieved to get the news and sent me a message, "Husband, I'm back from a business trip. Have you been to work? Don't forget to come to the banquet. These are the gifts I bought for you when I was on a business trip. Do you like them?" Ellie also took a lot of photos of the gifts for me. But after the message was sent, no response was given. She didn't think much about it. After all, I often forget to check the messages when I'm busy. She put away her phone and rushed to the booked box with Nathan. Ellie's girlfriends arrived early. At first, Ellie was not in a hurry, until it was almost dark and I didn't show up. She panicked and called me 99 times, but no one answered. Just as Ellie was about to go to the research institute to find me, there was a knock on the door, and a courier poked his head out. Who is Brian? Your delivery has arrived. Please sign for it. Ellie felt relieved immediately. It turned out that he had prepared a surprise for her. Really, they were already an old couple and still playing this game. As she said that, she signed for the express delivery. But when she opened it with great joy, what caught her eyes were 2 divorce certificates. Ellie widened her eyes in shock, but when she saw that the divorce certificates were signed by her and Brian, she was even more shocked. However, she was only panicked for a moment. When she remembered that Brian's ID card was withheld by her and it was impossible for the divorce to be successful, she felt relieved. But she also knew one thing: Brian must be angry. She then called Brian, but no one answered the phone. Beside her, Nathan's face was full of joy. He felt that the provocative messages he sent worked. Brian really hid himself. In his heart, he hoped that Brian would hide farther this time and not be detained again after being discovered by Ellie like last time. But seeing that Ellie looked unhappy at this moment, he still pretended to comfort her. He's a workaholic. Could it be that he is still at work and forgot to check the time? Ellie nodded frantically, as if she had grabbed a life-saving straw. You are right. He must be too busy at work and forgot. A group of people came to the institute in a mighty manner to find the whereabouts of Brian. After the staff verified Ellie's identity, they shook their heads at her. I am sorry, Ms. Ellie. You were indeed married to researcher Brian before, but now you are divorced. I do not have the authority to tell you where researcher Brian is. Please go back. Ellie did not even look at the ID card handed back by the staff. It is impossible. I did not agree to the divorce. How could we get divorced? What's more, I am pregnant. How could he abandon me and hide? She knew very well that Brian loved children very much and was a very responsible person. Even if they had many conflicts before, Brian would never abandon her when she was pregnant. But she did not notice that when she finished these words, Nathan looked away guiltily. Ellie made a big fuss but did not get the sympathy and pity of the staff. She only got a cold reply: this matter is not our responsibility. Please don't make a fuss here, otherwise I will notify the security. Please get out of here. No matter how Ellie begged or what means she used, she hit a wall at the research institute. She walked in a daze, recalling any place Brian might have gone to. But those bodyguards clearly saw with their own eyes that Brian never came out after entering the research institute. He must still be inside. Ellie squatted not far from the research institute, unwillingly waiting. She firmly believed that she would be able to wait until Brian came out. It was late at night. Nathan put his coat on Ellie and advised her earnestly, Ellie, don't wait. It's windy at night. I think he is just jealous and hiding on purpose. You might as well not want him anymore. It's enough for me to accompany you. I am the father of the child. As he said, he hugged Ellie in his arms, thinking that Ellie would indulge him as before. But unexpectedly, Ellie slapped him in the face and glared at him. Nathan, I have reminded you many times that you abandoned me when I was down and out. From then on, if you want to stay by my side, you can only be a mouse that hides from the light. Don't be too delusional and greedy. Nathan's face darkened and he explained, I was just. Ellie interrupted his explanation, the reason is not important. I only look at the result. As she said that, she suddenly remembered that she could still track my whereabouts through the mobile phone positioning. Suddenly, she suppressed her sadness and made a call. Then she turned on her mobile phone but saw that Brian's positioning showed that he was at home. Ellie immediately drove to the house. As soon as she opened the door, she was stunned. Brian liked to appreciate antiques, so she always spent a lot of money to collect them. The hall used to be full of ancient paintings and poetry collections. Now, at a glance, there were only empty walls. She took another look and frowned even deeper. Their wedding photos had always been placed in the most conspicuous position in the living room, but now they were gone. Ellie looked around uneasily but found that Brian's things seemed to be gone. She immediately called the nanny to ask about the situation. The nanny just sighed. After returning from his birthday, Mr. Brian became very strange. He packed out a lot of things and set a fire in the backyard, burning them all. Ellie's heart skipped a beat and she asked angrily, "Didn't you tell me that if there is anything wrong with him, you should notify me immediately? Why didn't you tell me about him burning things?" The nanny felt wronged. "Madam, I told you that, but you were very busy at the time. You told me that as long as Mr. Brian was not leaving home with his luggage, there was no need to report these trivial matters to you." Ellie's body stiffened when she heard this. She remembered that when the nanny reported, she was busy spending the night with Nathan. She didn't hear a word the nanny said and just perfunctorily dealt with it. But now, she regretted it and immediately took out her cell phone and sent a message to Brian, "Husband, where are you? I'm home. If you don't like these albums, I'll order another batch for you. I will never make you sad again." She anxiously sent several messages in a row but still received no reply. Ellie had no choice but to use precise positioning to find out that the phone was in the room. She walked upstairs step by step and began to look forward to it. Maybe Brian was just joking with her and might be in the room now, preparing to give her a surprise. Ellie pushed open the door and said coquettishly, "Okay, husband, stop playing. I know you are in the room." The door was completely opened, but she did not see the figure she was expecting. The room was empty, without a single person. There was only a mobile phone lying alone on the table. Ellie immediately snatched it and found that it was Brian's phone. Nathan recalled the provocative messages he had sent, and his eyelids jumped. He wanted to snatch it but was noticed by Ellie. Brian did not set a password, so Ellie unlocked it casually. When she opened the chat window, she saw more than a dozen messages flashing on Nathan's name. Ellie had a gloomy face and clicked on the message. "You don't really believe that she will fire me, right? It's just a joke. The person accompanying her on the business trip this time is me. Don't worry, I will take good care of your wife. What she said about the business trip was just a lie. We had a lot of fun. Have you ever thought about why she promised you to do IVF for so long, yet only got pregnant recently? That's because she was afraid of the pain after doing it once. We conceived naturally, and this baby. Some of this baby." Looking at these provocative texts and the photos and videos with clear hints, Ellie suddenly became furious. She grabbed a glass on the table and threw it at Nathan. "Nathan, how dare you tell him the truth? Didn't I warn you to be low-key and not to cause trouble again?" Nathan didn't dodge and was hit by the glass, bleeding, but he spread his hands without caring. "So what if I told him?" "Ellie, don't deceive yourself. You don't love him at all. You just think he is a suitable marriage partner, so you married him. But the person you really love is me. You are pregnant with my child, and you should have lived a good life with me." Ellie slapped him again. "How can you compare with him? Get out of here. I don't want to see you again." Ellie held the desk with her hands, covered her lower abdomen, and kept gasping for breath. She was so angry that she couldn't straighten her waist. Seeing this, Nathan didn't dare to make her angrier. He softened his tone and said, "Don't get angry and hurt yourself. Can't I help you get him back? He's a living person. Can he disappear into thin air? Let's go find his friends now, or at worst, his teacher. I don't believe we can't find him." Ellie's emotions gradually calmed down. She and Nathan went to visit Brian's friends, but these close friends had witnessed Ellie chasing Nathan away twice and leaving Brian at the birthday party. When they learned that Brian had run away, they applauded and angrily accused Ellie of being hypocritical and pretending to be affectionate only after the person disappeared. Nathan was so angry that he almost fought with them, but Ellie grabbed him and apologized with a pale face, then left. They searched all day and still had no news. In the end, they could only knock on the door of Brian's teacher. The moment the teacher saw Ellie, he shook his head and drove them away. "Go. You have nothing to do with Brian anymore." Don't try to control him again. Ellie knelt directly at the door of the teacher's house. He left in a hurry. I just want to know where he is and whether he is doing well. I will never interfere with him again. The teacher snorted coldly. Don't worry, he is doing well. He participated in a secret mission and will hide his identity for the rest of his life. Don't worry, you'll never find him. As he said this, the teacher slammed the door shut, leaving Ellie collapsed on the ground, crying. Nathan concealed the joy in his eyes and pretended to comfort Ellie. Don't be sad. He is determined to hide. No matter what we do, we can't find him. Give up. Can't we live a good life as a family of 3? Ellie wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes, stood up, and said firmly, No. How dare he leave without my permission? I will definitely find him. Ellie refused to give up and mobilized the media to publish a missing person notice to find Brian's whereabouts. She turned their sweet past into a fairy tale and circulated it on the internet, making countless young people cry. The beautiful love story of a rich daughter falling in love with a researcher instantly became popular. Ellie didn't believe it mobilized the whole country. Could she still not find Brian's whereabouts? This time, after she found him, she would never allow Brian to escape again. Every day, Ellie rushed to major media conferences. Her body was getting thinner and thinner, and she could hardly bear it. Nathan was very worried about the child's condition. He persuaded her many times, saying that they could find him slowly, but if she didn't eat or drink like this, not only would the child in her belly not be able to hold on, but she herself might not survive until Brian was found. Nathan knew that only by mentioning Brian's name could Ellie regain consciousness, but she seemed to be possessed. She couldn't even sleep well without seeing Brian for a day. She regretted all the time why she had agreed to Nathan's travel invitation back then. If she hadn't gone and stayed at home, she would definitely have discovered Brian's abnormality. But it was no use regretting now. Seeing that he couldn't persuade her and that Ellie had been up all night for several nights in a row, Nathan knocked her out and took her to the hospital for a nutrient infusion. Ellie didn't know how long she had been in a coma. When she opened her eyes in a daze, she suddenly saw a familiar figure. Brian, you are finally back. She choked and called out, but when the tears in her eyes flowed out, the blur in front of her cleared, and she saw that the person standing in front of her was not Brian, but Nathan. A hurt look flashed in Nathan's eyes. He held the nutritious porridge he had cooked himself, blew it gently to cool it, and handed it to Ellie's mouth, saying, Be good, drink a sip first. The doctor said that your condition has been very bad recently, and you have to stay in bed to save this baby. Ellie raised her hand in disgust and directly overturned the whole bowl of porridge. I don't want you. Let Brian come. Ellie screamed, smashed the flower pot on the bedside table, and swept away the things on the table. After a while, the ward was in a complete mess, and there was no place to step. Nathan's hands were burned red by the porridge. Seeing that Ellie was about to pull out the needle and get down from the bed, he grabbed her and apologized. Ellie, I said, I was forced back then. My parents risked their lives to force me to leave you. What could I do? Ellie calmed down, looked at him sideways, and said, Get out of here. Brian was always by my side when I was in the most dangerous time. I had fallen in love with him without realizing it, but he left me just when I realized it. Ellie shed a tear. She had always thought that the person she loved deeply was Nathan, and she was indeed moved by him every time. But that time, Brian's sudden departure scared her. She realized that she could not live without Brian at all. And this time, after self-reflection, she discovered something more. She had actually fallen in love with Brian, who was a little dull in his way of dealing with people, but gave her a strong sense of security. She had a lot to say to him, but she could only keep those words in her heart with no one to tell. Nathan didn't believe it at all. He just felt that Ellie wasn't giving up. She wanted Brian, who had a good academic background and was romantic and coaxing. When he was about to continue speaking, Ellie had already pulled out the needle while he was stunned and ordered the security guard to take Nathan away. Nathan wanted to resist, but he didn't dare to anger Ellie. He was concerned about the child in her belly and could only choose to compromise, but after he left, he was still paying attention to Ellie's every move. Ellie continued to run around to promote the event and even sponsored a variety show just to find Brian. People were moved by her persistence and spread Brian's photo all over the internet. There was a mixed crowd in society, and many people said things for the huge reward. Ellie received a message from someone who claimed to have seen Brian in Africa. Even though the employees repeatedly emphasized that it was more likely he was a liar, Ellie still relied on the blurry side profile photo and traveled across the ocean to find him. "Boss Ellie, this is the person you are looking for. We brought him to you." Ellie looked up expectantly but lowered her head in disappointment. The man did look a bit like Brian, but Ellie had been married to him for 7 years and had known him for even longer. At first glance, she knew this was not Brian at all. She shook her head in disappointment and was about to fly to another country. At this time, Nathan, who had heard the news, rushed over and finally met Ellie. "Ellie, don't go crazy. If you keep flying back and forth like this tirelessly, do you still want the child?" Ellie hugged her arms, looked at him with a cold face, and threw the pregnancy termination form at Nathan on the spot. "Nathan, I warned you. This is the result of you not listening to me. It's all my fault. If I hadn't been soft-hearted and agreed to your ridiculous request, he wouldn't have been so cruel to leave me alone if I didn't get pregnant with this child." Nathan looked at the form in his hand again and shouted angrily, "What are you crazy about? This is the child we have been looking forward to for a long time." But after losing Brian, Ellie truly regretted it. She never felt soft-hearted toward Nathan again and hated him for destroying her happy family. If he hadn't left and suddenly come back to make trouble, Brian wouldn't have known about their relationship at all, and he wouldn't have quarreled with her repeatedly because of Nathan's affairs, and the series of events that followed would not have happened. Ellie ignored the furious Nathan and kicked him out completely. "Nathan, do you still remember the mistakes you made when you worked for me? After I go back, I will hold you accountable for your legal responsibilities one by one. Just wait for jail time." Nathan's once erased mistakes were now magnified and pursued. He was asked to pay a huge amount of liquidated damages and was banned by Ellie. Nathan was heartbroken and fled from there, never to return. But Ellie never stopped looking for Brian's whereabouts. Apart from work, she spent her days on the way to find Brian, but what awaited her were either liars or fake news. Ellie was fooled many times, but she still refused to give up. Later, she missed Brian too much, so she found the one who looked most like him among a group of teenagers. She asked the teenager to wear Brian's clothes and imitate his words and deeds, but Brian's temperament was natural, and no one could imitate that essence. The boy was always flattering and disgusting. As time went on, many people advised Ellie to give up, saying Brian would never come back, but Ellie was still reluctant to let him go. Every year, she would hold a birthday party for Brian. She drank one glass of liquor after another, pointed at the cake, and said to the air, "I have prepared the cake I promised you, why don't you come back?" She was in a daze every day and neglected the management of the company. It was completely abandoned and could not survive the economic crisis. It went bankrupt and disappeared in the torrent of history. After the company went bankrupt, Ellie went completely crazy. She talked to the air every day, saying sorry over and over again, "How could I lose you?" Her parents both took pills and committed suicide that year when they were in debt, leaving her alone in the world. At that time, she was wandering alone in the rain. Someone held up an umbrella for her and gave her a kind smile. Later, this umbrella shielded her from the wind and rain for 7 years. Under the severe trauma, she lost her memory and only retained the good memories of the past few years. However, those relatives who once relied on her for their livelihood were unwilling to take care of her at this moment. Some people started live streaming to sell their misery because of her high commercial value. Those packaged fairy tale scams were deeply rooted in the hearts of the people. Uninformed netizens shed tears for her miserable end and donated money to sponsor her to live in a mental hospital. Since then, the story has been dug up every year, causing people to spit on it once more, saying that God is unfair. 10 years later, helicopters flew away one after another from a secret uninhabited island. Eventually, they stopped at a newly built research institute. One after another, researchers wearing special uniforms came out amid the cheers of the crowd. As soon as Brian came out, he saw his gray-haired mentor and his wife waiting for him. "Brian, welcome home." He was immersed in research on the uninhabited island, and time passed quickly. Now he was back. His mentor mentioned Ellie. Ellie's company went bankrupt a few years ago, and she is now in a mental hospital. Do you want to go see her? Brian was speechless. Ellie wouldn't go crazy like this for him, would she? He shook his head. Definitely not. No, it's been a long time since we last met. I really want to have a taste of the home-cooked meals made by my wife. His wife smiled and agreed. The three of them walked side by side and went to the supermarket to shop. He hadn't been back for 10 years, and the familiar place had changed a lot. The dilapidated floors had been demolished, and new high-rise buildings had been built. When he looked up, he could see all kinds of advertisements playing on the screen of soda. Brian looked up curiously and saw a report about Ellie. She lived in a mental hospital, shouting to the air, "Okay, Brian, I'll come to eat after this meeting." The host choked up and recounted her misery, using her situation to reap a wave of sympathy. People looked at her with tears in their eyes and took out their mobile phones to buy and place orders. They thought that saving the money for a cup of milk tea could help Ellie, a poor woman, live well. Suddenly, someone saw Brian looking around strangely in the crowd and shouted excitedly, "Are you Brian? Your wife has been looking for you for many years." Brian smiled awkwardly and waved his hand, saying, "I'm sorry, everyone made a mistake." After that, he took his mentor and his wife and turned away from the noisy crowd. The end.